What's going on? Everybody, how you popping? How you be? What's going on? Another episode of Save the Date. I'm one of your hosts, Heath.
What's good, everybody? I'm your other host, Jamie.
And today, back with that episode. The title of this episode is Overcoming Fear of Intimacy, Learning to Let Somebody In. This is going to be a bit personal for me. But before
Good.
we get into it, follow us at Save the Date Now, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Okay, overcoming fear of intimacy, letting someone in. This is personal for me because I have an issue with forgiveness and I have an issue with holding grudges. And grudge holding and unforgiveness are barriers to love. I had a associate of mine, someone I respect, her name is Lethelma, once say that the same highway that traffics love, traffics pain. So when you shut down the highway because there's too much pain, you're also shutting down the highway for love.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to understand the two-way traffic that happens at times with your heart. And while that's true, some of us have built habits out of self-defense mechanisms, trauma, drama. Some of us have created narratives about ourselves or about the world that inform our actions, our practices, our beliefs, our habits. And we use those habits to either defend ourselves, hurt others, or look for ways to test love. And for me, I've had some barriers around forgiveness and grudges that when I am in a relationship and you hurt me or I feel hurt, which is two different things. Sometimes somebody hurts you, sometimes you feel hurt. We can get into that in another episode. I start to shut down, and then it becomes that much more difficult for my partner to find inroads to meet my heart, because guess what? I shut down the highway. Now you got to go over the dirt roads. And the dirt roads, as we know, take longer than the highway. And then you're sitting there wondering why you don't have any love. Well, you push someone on the dirt road. Something that should have been a 45-minute trip now has become a 2-hour trip, and you're wondering why you don't feel connected and you don't feel loved and you don't feel like you can love them. Well, you've created these barriers to connection, and there's tons of good reasons why you created those barriers. I'm not knocking the process. It's who we are as human beings, how we're constructed, how we're wired, even more importantly, how we're programmed and how we programmed ourselves. But we have to be honest and take account if we actually want to move forward and really feel connected and really feel engaged, really experience joy, really relish and joy, then we really have to think about what's happening and why I'm not letting somebody in. So ultimately, this episode is just going to be some personal anecdotes, some personal grievances, some confessions, but it's also going to be some tips on how to move forward. So with that said, let me start with tip number one for overcoming this fear of intimacy and letting somebody in. Number one, recognize the barriers that you've created that stop you from receiving love. You have to recognize what they are. Now, this may take time, but ultimately you have to really sit down with yourself and take inventory of your soul, of your spirit, of your experiences, of your history, of your environment, and start to ask, what are my barriers to love? Another way of doing it, besides just sitting with yourself, is relying on your friend group, your social circle. We've talked about this before. It's very hard for us to leverage our intuition to learn more about ourselves. It's best if you rely on a friend or a group of close friends to tell you the truth about how you can be in certain social situations or scenarios, or how they experience you when you talk about your relationships, whether you're with somebody permanently, someone short term, someone you've been with for a long time. Allow them to reach out to you and advise you on ways in which you may be blocking yourself, self-sabotaging your pathways to experience love. For me, it took a while to realize I had an issue with unforgiveness. It took a while because I would say, I forgive you. So in my mind and in my heart, well, this is my mind, this is my heart, I would say, I forgive you, because that's what you do. You speak the words and then the person's forgiven, which is a necessary step in the process of forgiveness. But I saw Neil Strauss, the author of The Game, put something up about forgiveness, which is it's important and it's vital to your health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your mental health, your physical health. But some of us, we take too long to forgive, but some of us forgive too quickly. And when we say we forgive too quickly, we're quick to say the words, but never searching our hearts for where the pain is, why it's there, and some of the context, the emotional context behind what we're experiencing and what we're feeling. We're just kind of speedballing our way through it, never just taking a rest to really understand what's happening with my body, what's happening with my soul. How do I truly feel? And some of that may be pressure from external forces. For example, I had a lot of religious pressure. Growing up in a Black Baptist family, there is the emphasis on forgiveness. Whether you're going to war with your cousins, something happening at school, it's so and so important to forgive. And they really pressure you and prevail upon you. At least my experience is that it was pressure. It may not be to them, but to me it was, to really, hey, you need to forgive. You need to let that go. But you can only let it go truly if you've given yourself time to process that. Growing up in my conservative Black household, there really was no consideration for how you process some things as a kid. You're going to do it and keep it moving. But as an adult, we have the agency to sit back and think about what we're truly dealing with when we're hurt, when we feel aggrieved, when someone has betrayed us. It's important for us to take note because it allows us to break patterns, whether they're mindsets or patterns of behavior or habits that we have that allow us to truly protect ourselves and be informed when we go into the next relationship, or if we're in the same relationship, as we keep engaging and working with that person. So it's just important that you understand where you're really at. Again, it took me a while to recognize forgiveness. It became more apparent once friends and my partner were like, you have an issue with forgiveness. Parents, right? My parents like, you have an issue with forgiveness. I forgave that person because I said it. But once I gave myself the freedom to experience my feelings without judgment, then I realized I had some work to do and basically getting after it and figuring out what I needed to do to really truly forgive others and also forgive myself.
And you're saying your issues with forgiveness made it tough for you to be vulnerable and let people in?
Yeah, well, it made it difficult to let people in because I'm always holding on to the way you hurt me, the way you portrayed me, what you did, the way I felt about it, the way I perceived the event, the replays that I have. You know, back in the day, cats would have VHS tapes and replay, like they would tape the Super Bowl or they would tape like a WWE event and go back. SummerSlam 88. You know what I mean? I'm going back and watching that again. So you just keep replaying those tapes, replaying those tapes. The person's taking you out. You're at Great Adventure. You're at Turks and Caicos. You're in Florida. You're at Orlando. You're going out for a hike. And while you're with this person, you may be, because of unforgiveness in my scenario, side-eyeing them because of some event or instance of pain or hurt that happened 6 months ago. You haven't properly processed it. You haven't let it go. So the person's trying to hold your hand and look at the sunset on the hike, and you just like, oh yeah, you holding the hand, but you're like, yeah, you holding my hand now, but I remember back 6 months ago.
And none of that signaled I have an issue with forgiveness.
No, because in my mind, I said, I forgive you. The work of forgiveness was never truly taught to me, or I wasn't allowed to experience the work of forgiveness. This came out of therapy, where when I went through negative emotions, my experience of my parents, or specifically my mother, was that don't be upset. Look at this or look at that. It could be worse. There were all these other opportunities to get out of it, as opposed to giving that person that time to process it. Some people do need 15 minutes to be angry. Sometimes they need 30 minutes to be angry.
Yeah.
Some people need a half a day and some people need years, and that's a whole different scenario. But truth be told, people just need a little bit of time.
Yeah.
They just need to be able to
Just to
experience it,
process feelings.
but to feel it.
Yeah, just to process the feelings.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
feeling it is, feeling it is
Exactly.
part of
It's
the
part of the
process.
process.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was saying
Yeah.
the same thing. And I was so busy not feeling it that eventually became, okay, rote. It was like an algorithm. Okay, something happened, I forgive. Something happened, I forgive.
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, you're forgiving, but what are you really processing?
Yeah.
What are you feeling? And it was almost like, for me, looking back at it, I wouldn't have said this at the time, but looking back now, there was a very stark judgment against myself for feeling that I was weak if I felt too deeply about a slight. I was not being a certain type of man or person. So some guys or some gals or some parents or some fill in the blank that's around you may say, man, you're acting like a bitch. And if acting like a bitch is anathema to being a strong masculine man, and you're in a strong masculine male culture, and listen, you could be around women and be in a strong masculine male culture, meaning these women are coaching you into a vision of what kind of man you should be, especially if you're a boy. They may be saying, this is how a man shows up. This is what a man does. This is how a man, takes a woman on a date. This is how he pays for the bills. This is how he talks to her. This is how he communicates. You're getting the drip, 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 drip that fills the bucket of your masculinity. And if you're getting that, And part of that is real men ain't gonna make a big deal if their woman does X, or real men ain't gonna make a big deal once this happens, or real men don't cry. You're programming yourself to not feel. You're programming yourself to live in this vapid state of a, and when you're doing that, you're not engaging with your emotions. You're not aware of who you are. You're not aware of what should really be going on because you shut down that highway. You shut it down.
Or you're just operating off a condition and progress. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well, yeah,
nothing.
then that's another way of putting it, another word
Yeah.
picture. It's just an algorithm. I
Mm-hmm.
forgive,
Right.
but you're really, again, to go back to my example, 6 months later on the hike, they go to reach for your hand. You're like, oh, yeah, this is funny reaching for my hand on the hike. But when I went reach to your hand, we were out with your family, you jerked your hand away.
Yeah. Well, you had something slick to say.
Yeah, you had something to slick to say. And your parents
Right.
right there, and they heard it, and they tried out. And I saw their faces. They act like they didn't hear it. And yeah, yeah, ready to embarrass me around your family. But when we on this hike, you want to be, you know what I'm saying, the
Now
Care
you want
Bear
me to be
stare.
Ronnie
Yeah,
Romance and let me
exactly.
love you down. Like, no, I
Yeah,
don't want to
exactly.
love you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I know. I feel you. I feel you.
So for me, I had to practice being like, true forgiveness means I am saying that hurt me. I'm confronting you about it. I'm communicating with you about it. Again, we've had multiple episodes about the difference between just talking and communication.
Mhm.
And I am prepared now because I'm interested in our love. I'm interested in receiving love. I'm interested in giving love and being a contributor. I am now ready to say, I forgive you. Now, the more you build trust and integrity with that person, that'll get easier. What maybe took you 20 minutes may take you 5 minutes. Heck, you may get to a point where that doesn't even bother me like that anymore. I forgive you. No, all good. Let's just get back to doing what we were doing.
For some people, that's what forgiveness is. I'm no longer mad at you.
Yes.
And I think that's why some people end up saying it quickly.
Yes.
Because the feelings have subsided. They're like, you know what? That it was an instance. I don't have to carry those feelings around. So you know what? I forgive you. But
Yeah.
I think to your point, forgiveness is a process, not an event.
Mhm.
And that conversation just might be necessary. Like, hey, what you did when you did this, it hurt me. This is how it made me feel. I just wanted you to know. We can have a conversation or a dialogue about it. I don't feel that way anymore. I just wanted you to know, and we can move on. But
Yes.
it's a dialogue and a moving toward. So I feel like forgiveness is ultimately when you do not hold somebody accountable to the penalty you feel like they deserve to pay you
I like that.
for
I
what they
like that.
did to you.
I like that. Yeah. I like that.
It's like, I know you stole from me and you owe me X, Y, Z, but I'm going to cover the cost.
Yes.
I'm going to forgive the debt.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's forgiveness. When I see you in the street, it ain't necessarily going to be, Bambi, butterflies and deer running around the
Right.
forest,
But I'm
but
not
it ain't
running
going to be
down on you
gravestones
either.
and brimstone either.
Yeah. I'm
I
not
ain't
running
wishing you.
down on you either.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. I ain't saying, I know someone who needs to go to hell tonight. Express train. Yeah, you're not doing that. But for you, where do you see the second step for how people can start letting people in?
Well, step number 2.
Well, no, I'm asking for you, what would be step number 2? Step number 1 was this whole idea of identifying, understanding what's really going on the inside. And that's why I was talking about the forgiveness. I mean, I have a step number 2, but I didn't want to monopolize the conversation.
To me, this is a difficult one because I really feel like this is a matter of feelings, and we all have a choice to say, I'm not going to let my feelings dictate how I operate in a situation. The vulnerability that we're talking about, guardrailing or putting up walls around, is just the reflection you're going to see in somebody else. Why we don't want to see ourselves and other people that deep, I don't know. I don't know why people have that blockage. Like, what do you really think you're going to see in somebody else that's so different? You've hurt somebody before, you've peed in the bed before, you've had a nightmare, you know what I mean? You've gone to primary, secondary, you know what I mean? Higher education, like whatever it is, we're all going through the same things. Yes, in different circumstances, but we're all going through the same thing. You're not going to reveal something to somebody that is going to give them any kind of moral ground over you or make them superior to you or make you inferior to them. So sometimes I just like, that's what I'm saying. To me, it's as simple as I'm either going to make the choice to be open about this thing that I know about me or this quirk, this idiosyncrasy about me that I feel like makes me different or, makes me feel othered in my own mind. I'm going to reveal that to somebody and just let them see this is what's behind these eyes when I see them looking innocent, or this is what's behind that smile when we hang out and there's all this joy, but it's not over here.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And you realize that it's just you in someone else's body. They're going through the same things in different times and states in their life, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like this vulnerability thing, it gets way more power than is necessary. It's just like, yo, make the choice. Either you're going to be open with this person or you're not. And if you know you don't have intentions on being vulnerable or open with them, leave them alone.
I like that. Leave them alone. If you have no
But leave them
intention
alone.
of being
I
vulnerable with
mean,
somebody, leave them
if
alone.
you know that that's their intention.
Yes. Yeah. If that's what they're looking for
And
from you.
sometimes, listen, let's even take it here. Obviously, with the different types of relationship dynamics, everything is not about monogamy. So this person might be able to be vulnerable in a polyamorous situation. But that's a discussion between you and them on how and when and where y'all gonna peel back those layers of vulnerability and opening up. But if you know y'all are on the same path to get to the same destination, it's just a choice to decide to be open. Just do it. Let this person know about all your flaws, your quirks, all of that. Because you would really rather them interact with you, all of you, as Beyonce would say, flaws and all, than this manufactured person that's really not sustainable for you to be and perform around them all the time. Like, you're not going to even be able to keep that up. So they're not going to be able to keep up with engaging with that on a regular basis in a positive way.
Yeah.
So don't
Yeah.
do yourself the disservice of being and accepting yourself first. I feel like a lot of us get caught up there, you know. Like I said, in our own minds, we think the worst of us is the worst in the world. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody else has ever heard or
Yeah,
felt
we
that
do.
way.
Yeah, for sure. I
But
have.
it's like, people, like you said, you talked about this thing with manhood, right? And if you're in a place that encourages or promotes a certain type of manhood and something in that circumstance is challenging yours, you're going to be like, well, wait a minute. In my own mind, I'm this kind of man. And now something is internally challenging me that I'm not meeting that standard. And, oh my God. Now, whereas before I thought I was 95% of that, I think I'm 20 now. And it's like, well, maybe you're just 93% instead of 95. But everything for us kind of just becomes ballooned, and that's what becomes the self-sabotage when you decide not to open yourself up to people.
It's interesting you say that because that word culture, you mentioned that, or maybe think about it, where we try to fight culture. But how do you fight culture? Just take it out in the back alley and have a knock down, drag out fist fight. It's hard to beat culture. And the culture of the homes we've grown up in, the houses of worship, the circles we run in, they're really hard to beat because we learn so much from those cultures. We become a part of that culture, and we do a lot as social creatures to fit in. So we start conforming to culture, even though it may be emotionally violent to us. We'll do it because we want to survive or we want to feel accepted. And we trade authenticity for acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And as we begin to mature as human beings, we realize authenticity is the gateway, the key to true acceptance. So the acceptance you get from a group is one thing, but the acceptance you generate from yourself and attract to yourself from just being yourself means everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also related to letting somebody in because some of us are afraid, and this is, I would say, like a third point. You have to find a way to be yourself. You've talked about this tons and tons on the podcast. Being authentic. A lot of us have a problem letting people in for emotional, physical closeness because we're afraid that if we're ourselves, we'll drive people away. And here's the rub. You are going to drive people away because not everybody's for you. Not everybody's meant to be in community with you, and you're not meant to be in community with everyone. There are groups of people that will be attracted to you and attracted to your quirkiness, your weirdness, your idiosyncrasies, and they're willing in the short and some people in the long term to put up with your quirks because they want to do this thing called love with you. And that's where you have to take the risk. Most importantly, take the risk to love, but even more importantly, take the risk to be yourself. Take the risk to be yourself. I was telling someone today that even in my 40s now, it took me a while to get here as I encounter certain challenges with work or with my life. One of the things that's been a calming mantra to me or a thought for me is be yourself. Yourself is good enough. In that I have now 20 years of data as an adult, living on my own, going through various work opportunities, various business ventures, projects, a lot of failure, tons of failure. And now I'm so sure about some of the skills I've built up, some of the skills I've acquired on how to navigate relationships, conflict resolution, working with people, account management, relationship management. That now, even when I'm encountering problems where I'm uncertain of the outcome, the process that I use, I'm so sure of that I can walk into a space confidently, relying on those skills and relying on my intention to treat people well to get me through to the other side, to get me to the outcomes I'm looking for, or at times where outcomes have to be negotiated, knowing that I'm going to negotiate in good faith, and that all converges to create a better outcome for everybody involved. It took me a while to get there, but it's the same thing in love. You have to be confident enough in who you are and in your intentions to go to the next step and show somebody truly who you are and say, now you tell me if this is what you want, and you show yourself to me, and I'll tell you if this is what I want. And I believe that's just a requirement for physical closeness. If you have a hard time letting people in, I'm asking the question, do you have a hard time letting yourself out?
Mm-hmm. Because it is a two-sided coin.
Yes. Yes. Are you being genuine to who you are? Your religious dogma you maybe grew up with is going to tell you one thing. Your parents or your family unit or your care unit as you grew up is going to tell you one thing. The economy is going to tell you one thing. Social media is going to tell you one thing. And we can go on and on. We can fill up all of our fingers and have fingers left over to count with all the influences coming at you on a daily, consistent basis that are telling you what you should be doing and who you should be becoming. But are you more aware of who you're becoming on the terms that make sense for your soul and for who you are?
I think that's where people get stuck. I think there are more normal, rich people in the world than care to accept and admit that. I think that's the reason why so many people are afraid to be vulnerable, because who they truly are is just, it's just normal. They're just normal people, and
Just average, yeah, ordinary.
we've become allured and I think kind of entrapped with this idea and this narrative of being extraordinary and standing out.
Yes.
But
High achiever.
and I mean, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but we've allowed other people's stories to author our own. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where we're
Mm-hmm.
getting mixed up. It's like, yo, why are you striving to be Bill Gates? He checked that already. Why are you trying to be Diddy? That box is checked already. Why are you trying to be Mother Teresa? That box is checked already. Who are you supposed to be?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with taking pages from these people's books in terms of their high achieving success. But I think it becomes very dangerous, this idea of acceptance, when the things that people aspire to are being defined by others outside of them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like you said, you can't beat culture. So if all you do is try to take on and embody the best of all of this culture that really in essence isn't authentic to you, all you're doing is just like making a compilation of mess. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's going to expose you.
Yeah.
Like for all of these people who are out here claiming to be marketing gurus and business, like, yo, son, there's no coincidence that those businesses fell apart. There's no
Yeah.
coincidence, because they were trying to live out stories that weren't their own.
Yeah. There was nothing authentic about their approach to business, their approach to people, their approach to marketing or business in quotations. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a run up. That's what I see. I'm gonna put that out on Upwork. Let's see if I can get some clients. And no connective tissue to any of the real problems in the market or the real people in the market.
Yeah. And now sometimes that's obviously a subjective experience. I'll give you an example. I am really not a big Beyonce fan like that. Beyonce to me is a manufactured artist. I don't know anything about her. I don't really know what she likes, what she doesn't like on a daily basis. I like artists more like Solange, who give you like a almost like a bird's eye view into their brain. Willow Smith. What's dude's name? Like a D'Angelo, or just artists who have opened up either artistically or personally about what their musical perspective is, what their life worldview is. So when we talk about authenticity, that's the kind of stuff that moves me.
Mm-hmm.
People who I feel like make vulnerable music. Like Beyonce makes some great music to be in the club too, but I really like the lyrics and the words of it, the story of it, hard to connect to for me. But I've been out and people was on some, can I touch your hair? "Don't touch my hair" means something to me. You know what I'm saying? Solange song like that, like that actually means it resonated with me in a way. I've been drunk in love before, but you know, back in my prime. But oh hey,
Hey, there we go.
and on that note,
Yeah. And on that note, and that Beyonce chatter.
the Beehive came for us.
Yeah. The
You should have stopped me right in my tracks.
Yeah. Hey. You got stopped. You got stopped.
The
That's just a
universe
little.
was like, we shall
Yeah.
not, we shall not.
Yeah.
Thou not blaspheme in the house of Beyonce.
Exactly. The House of Darion. You messed up there. The House
Forgive
of
me, Lord B.
Crazy.
Man, yeah,
Crazy.
that was
Crazy.
kind of wild.
Yeah.
That was kind of wild.
Guys, this has been another episode of Save the
That's
Date.
keeping it authentic right there, bro.
I was just happened. What am I gonna do?
Ain't no edits on that.
Yeah,
That's keeping it
it's gonna
authentic
stay.
right
It's
there.
gonna stay. It's gonna stay. Yeah,
Love
for
it.
sure, man. For
Love
sure.
it.
Guys, it's always a pleasure. Again, Save the Date, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Hit us up. Always open to show ideas, suggestions. We're going to keep doing our thing. And thanks for listening to this episode. Until the next one, I'm Heath.
I'm Jamie, y'all.
Take care.
Peace.